least she knows about
flight attendant, their curtail is 90%.
Yeah, I think that's nonsense.
Military school.
Yeah, I just think that all of those extreme predictions are nonsense. Now, one of the psychics that I told Bill at the beginning of the session, one of the psychics predicted that, according to him, the masters, quote unquote, had decided that this mess in the world had gone on long enough, and they were going to take a hand now, and that they were going to speed up the vibrations so that all the people who had a lot of money because they were greedy were going to self-destruct. Their immune systems are going to break down. They're going to die, and then the, the generous and loving people would inherit the world.
it.
And like the masters are going to take away our karma and fix the mess that we've created and do it for us. And I think that's nonsense. I think we have to experience the results of our own character. The only way to change our lives is to change our character. That is our habits.
Really getting in touch. Yeah, you're really in touch. Like a lot of the yogas
Yeah.
back to India. You really know you don't follow a pattern anymore. You know when
Yeah.
it's a good time or when
Yeah,
it's right.
the point is every principle has positive and painful alternatives. As far as details go, there's nothing that's automatically good or bad.
In this world, yeah.
So you can do something positive with every single pattern. Now, I'm very Virgo in my astrology. I want to know, can this be tested? Can it be used? Will it help you? Can you do something with it?
Hmm.
And if somebody's just telling me about a past life where it's mystic mumbo jumbo and, and spacey, I just turn it off.
And the same for Hindu astrology is if you can test those predictive
Yes.
abilities,
Yes.
and if it
Test them and see if they work.
right,
But as I said, what I have seen has a lot of it been destructive. And one case was a woman who had had her chart done by a Vedic astrologer, not a Hindu, U.S. born, but Vedic,
uh-huh.
who told her she was going to die before the end of the year of Cancer because
Kidding.
Venus was mad at her. Now there was this much germ of truth in this. She didn't die, by the way.
Right.
That was an error, but she did have cancer, and she had told her astrologer that, and she had conflict aspects in her relationship with her husband, and that was why she had the cancer. So you could call that Venus is mad at you, but what do you do with it when someone says Venus is mad at you? Go do an offering to Venus? What she needed was to make peace with her husband, work out a reasonable relationship there.
Well, said to her, I think he just used the wrong term. He said Mars on K2 was like a black hole,
Black hole,
and it
right.
kind of held her back.
Yeah, that's wrong. That's nonsense. What can you do with it? What does it mean in the first place? And what can you do with it in the second place?
Well, not much except going to spiritual things. Going to him.
Yeah. Yeah, Mars is very close to your south node, and for me that says you have an obligation to do something for personal action, Mars, in the spiritual realm, Sagittarius, to gain spiritual knowledge and give it to the world.
That makes sense. He said that if I didn't have that there and I just had Mars, I would have had famous children. That was awesome.
If you wanted children, you could have had children with this chart, but I've seen numbers of charts of people. The more you put in one area in the chart, the more there is the possibility that it's like an overload and the person doesn't deal with it very
I
effectively.
remember you telling me that, but that was one of the things he told me, and he said
Mm-hmm.
I could be very famous if I didn't have K2 there.
No, you could still be famous with Ketu there if you wanted to be.
We're just sharing this with you.
Yes, I know, but that
I-
just confirms my
Yeah.
experience with Vedic astrology. That it's too often negative and not helpful.
Exactly. That's my main gripe.
This is a horoscope recording for Stephanie Robel, and we are in Southern California in September 1997. What it does to us is it makes us learn how to emotionally stop being a reactor to other people and letting our emotions be impacted by other people's emotions. And that's very hard to do when you got a lot of water, because water people are like open to like a sponge to anything that's around. And with the Cancer rising and all that Scorpio, the tendency is to feel what's going on. And if people are depressed, to feel their depression, and or if they're angry or whatever. And so sometimes it's just important to try to cut off that feeling, and that's when doctors and nurses and helpers in general seem like they get cold or hard, but it is for self-protection, because they are just, when they're too vulnerable to other people's emotions, they are dragged down with them. And water is the element that symbolizes that subconscious connectedness, where there's no separation, we're totally connected. And to get out of that water open receptivity, we have to get into any of the other three elements, and that will cut it off. You get into earth by just focusing on the physical things you're doing, just the physical results in the physical world. You get into air by mentally detaching and analyzing as if you were a spectator, just trying to understand it without being personally connected. A spectator figuring out what makes people tick and why are they that way. And you get into fire just by concentrating on your own personal immediate desire and acting on it, whatever, any kind of action. It's like, I want to do this, and doing it. And your focus is on your own desire and your own action. So all of those get you out of that passive receptivity of the water.
She said, well, what you have to do is love the other person.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's true. You have to wish her well. Love does not mean you want to be with her. Love means you want what's good for her. You want what's good for her growth, for her positive potential. So if you just send positive wishes for her finding what's best for her, every time you think of her, just think of her finding what will give her needs, her growth. But once people get to a certain overweight, they run into a real risk of having problems with the insulin in their body. And that's been known now, although they didn't know exactly what was going on, clear back into the last century. Some doctors who are smarter than the average recognize that it is carbohydrates that make people fat. Sugar and starchy carbohydrates. And that includes potatoes and bread and grains, cereals, pastas, all of those. And so if people eat more protein than fat and leave out everything with sugar and starchy carbohydrates, they stay normal.